again, everybody, and welcome to an all-new episode of Road Trip After Hours. I'm your host, Mac Davis, along with my WWE Hall of Famer co-host, Teddy Long. Hey, Teddy, how you doing, brother?
Hey, I'm doing good today, man. And first thing, before we kick off here, let's put everybody.
Road Trip After Hours.
Gentleman here does not do podcasts. Okay, I'm gonna let y'all know that right now. So to have him to come on and be with me and Mac is certainly an honor, man, and I certainly really appreciate it.
First of all, our guest is a WWE Hall of Famer himself. He is none other than Mr. JBL, John Bradshaw Layfield. Hey, John, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I want to tell you something. Teddy Long is one of the best people on the entire planet, but he's also the cheapest person on the entire planet.
Hey, Patrick, grab some Krabby Patties and come on over. It's time for Road Trip After Hours. With host Mackerel Davis and WWE Hall of Famer Teddy Crab Legs Long. Yay!
We love all the wrestling fans, right, Teddy, baby?
Exactly, Jimmy. And before we go, man, you make sure you say hello to the Hulkster and let him know, man, good luck with everything.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am Tony Chimmel, and welcome to Road Trip After Hours. Please welcome your host, Mac Davis, and WWE Hall of Famer, Teddy Long.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to an all-new episode of the Wrestling's Road Trip After Hours. See how close that got, Teddy.
I was waiting on you.
I knew you were. Hey, look here. We do this each and every week here on YouTube and wherever you find your favorite podcast if you're just listening to us. But we do encourage you to go by YouTube, subscribe onto YouTube, and get that notification bell because that helps this show grow. And because of you, so far, we are at, episode 101, I believe, Teddy, right now. And Teddy, I'm talking about, for those of you who I've not introduced yet, Mr. WWE Hall of Famer, Teddy Long. Hey, Teddy.
Hey, if they don't know me by now, then don't worry about it.
If you don't, there's a song out there. If you don't know me by, like, you know how it goes.
Yeah.
How you doing, brother?
Hey, man, I'm just hanging in here, player.
I hear you. I'm loving this cooler air, though, man. We were talking the other day, and we were talking about you and Rufus. And I know you have to be enjoying this weather in the afternoons now because it's not near as hot as it had been.
Well, it's hot today.
Oh yeah, it's got back up around the 90s again today here. So yeah, it's creeping back in, but at least fall's coming. I'm watching all the trees in the backyard now dropping leaves everywhere. So it's just around the corner. Teddy, I saw something, Rikishi. We've talked about him a couple of times on this show, and Rikishi, who is, for those of you who do not know, and most of you do, I know, but he's the father to both Jimmy and Jey Uso and Solo Sikoa. He is the actual father. But he made a post on X just recently, Teddy, causing a lot of people to get kind of worried about the health of Jimmy. He says, quote, and this is Rikishi saying this, "Dear God, prayers for strength and health to continue, Jimmy Uso." The words were also accompanied by a video of Jimmy reciting a prayer. Teddy, do you know any? I wasn't even aware that Jimmy had any kind of health concerns at all. I haven't heard anything. So is that something you have any wind of?
No, I don't know anything about that. The first I'm hearing is what you're just saying now. So, you got to look at things like that. That just really don't come out. That's kind of family. And so people try and keep that to themselves. You know what I mean? Just like maybe, like I said, I don't know. I'm going to comment on this. I don't know. But they were saying that Sid Vicious died from cancer. Well, I never knew he had cancer. And then, like I said, if his family knew, then that's something that you don't share. You don't tell people. So whatever happened, maybe that may be the same with Jey Uso. Like I said, I don't know, and I've never known of him having any kind of ailment.
Yeah, and it's Jimmy. Now, Jimmy has been out for a while. We see Jay all the time, main event Jey Uso. But Jimmy, really, I don't think we've seen him since the brother versus brother match. I don't think he's been back since then. And that match wasn't the greatest match. Everybody had high expectations for that match, and it didn't deliver, and they acknowledged it didn't deliver what it should have. But I just never heard of any health issues coming as far as Jimmy. So it was kind of surprising for Rikishi to make those comments. And a part of me, though, Teddy, and it goes back to what you were just saying, some things you just don't put out there. You know what I mean? And which makes me wonder, is this a little bait? Maybe there's something more to this. Could it be a work?
Well, I don't know, man. I don't see Rikishi, playing with ailment or something that may be wrong with one of his kids.
Yeah.
I don't see him joking or maybe making a storyline out of that. Like I said, we don't know.
Yeah.
But I think this is something serious, and I think we just have to sit back and just wait and see how this plays out.
Look, if this is a legit shoot, he is not doing well. I certainly, Teddy and I both, wishing the success and quick heal for whatever it may be.
Well, I've known them ever since they were babies. I used to go down to Pensacola, Florida when I first broke into the wrestling business, and Rikishi was living in Pensacola, and that's where Alf and Sika was also living, and they had the school down there and everything. So I knew Jay and Jimmy when they were just little bitty babies, man. So,
we need to get Rikishi on here one day. We can talk. I know we mentioned it to him before, and he said, yeah, but we just haven't been able to get our calendars together. But one day soon, hopefully, we might be able to get Rikishi, and we can kind of go in to find out what is going on, because he's made a few comments in the last month or so that have been a little bit surprising for Rikishi, and maybe it's the social media, and I don't know, but anyhow, let's talk about somebody else that used to be in WWE, and that's the coach, Jonathan Coachman. Teddy, man, he let loose on a recent unsanctioned match in AEW, the one that you and I had talked about, Swerve Strickland and Hangman Adam Page, and all the crazy spots, the syringes and everything else. And he was talking, he says, people come up to him and say, Coach, that's a storyline. All that drama and all that violence, it's just a storyline. And he says, it's not a movie. It's a real life movie. And these are real things with real kids in the front row watching it in real time. And this goes back to laziness. When you can't write a story good enough that you have to have a hypodermic needle inside someone's mouth, it's disgusting. What are your thoughts, Teddy, on the use of the violence of that match and what Coach had to say?
I didn't see the match. I kind of, some things with Coach I don't agree on, and some things I do. I'd have to say, I think he's pretty much on point with that syringe sticking in somebody's mouth. I don't know. I really don't understand that. I really don't know what that was all about. And like you said, there are kids on the front row and there are kids watching the TV. How do you explain to them what that means? It ain't like a kid can get his hand on a syringe at any time, but to have some kid watch you and see you take a syringe, something that he's probably just known the doctors or something to use, and stick it in another person's mouth,
and not just stick it in the mouth. I mean, he actually injected whatever was in it into the mouth too, which again, you're telling a kid that not only do you stab him with it, you inject whatever you got in there into him.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't watch AEW, and I've already learned that they're pretty reckless, and out of touch. So I just don't really know what to say, man.
And I don't hate on AEW by there's so many things that need to be fixed, but I don't want to see it succeed, because without that place being there, there's a lot less opportunities for the guys to make money and make a living. So we want to see them succeed, but for the love of God, somebody get control of the company, and somebody needs to start putting their foot down in certain cases. I thought the pay-per-view was good, but there were aspects of the pay-per-view that could have been done without. And just like Teddy and like Coach has said in that comment, you got kids there. When you go to a movie, you know what the rating of that movie is going to be, and you know what to expect. I don't think anybody expected somebody being jabbed with a hypodermic needle into somebody's mouth and being injected with kids around.
What was the reason for it? That's all I'm asking. What was the purpose of putting a hypodermic needle in someone's mouth and injecting whatever was inside the needle? I'd like to know what was inside that needle that Troy was comfortable with to let them inject it in him.
I'd like to know that too now, because I kept thinking, well, whatever you put in his mouth, even if it's Novocaine or whatever it is that he may have shot in there, still, you just don't do that.
Well, maybe you don't do it, but they do.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the problem with the company, and it does make them look like they're grasping for straws, and you got to be careful. One more thing before we get into Ask Teddy, because we got some questions I had that I want to get to you today, Teddy. But just before we went to air, the attorneys for Janelle Grant held a press conference. And I don't know what happened in that press conference. Haven't heard anything. I've looked everywhere for it. I do know that by the time we get back here next week, we'll be able to comment on those things that she is alleging in this latest press conference that she'll be having. It's all coming out just before Vince McMahon's documentary, Teddy, and that's something I think a lot of people are looking forward to see. You included, I would imagine. What you want to see the real Vince McMahon and see if it holds true to the person you know, don't you?
Well, I know the real Vince McMahon. I had a chance to have the opportunity to work for him there for 15 years. And certainly I want to see the documentary because Vince is talking himself. And I'd like to just see what he's saying and, how he feels about different things. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing it.
Yeah, I think it'd be really interesting. By the way, Teddy, let me ask you this because we haven't talked about this, the Diddy stuff that's going on and him in prison, not getting bail or anything else. Does that shock you at all, hearing all this news about all the crazy things he's done?
Well, yeah, it was because I don't know nothing about the rap groups or rapping. I know of the artists, different ones that are out, but, the knowing the behind the scenes and the backstories, golly, man, that's pretty overwhelming too about Diddy. But I never will forget. I remember one time he came to WWE. We were somewhere. I don't remember where it was, but we had a security guard there, and her name was Muriel. And Muriel was always on top of her job, you know what I mean? And Muriel, and I think P. Diddy was there to make an appearance or something, and she was just trying to tell him where he needed to stand or whatever. And he really lit into her and told her she was nothing but the help, and she wasn't qualified to tell him where to go and where not to go. But if you ever talk to Muriel, she can tell you a little bit more about it than me. But I was there to witness that. So after that day, I never really cared for him.
No, I don't blame you. I wouldn't either. I'm surprised he made it out there without somebody beating his ass.
Well, he didn't nobody know it.
Yeah, well, and it falls in line with everything that's happening in the news now. So
it's called karma.
Yeah, we talk about that all the time, don't we, brother?
That's Laura Night is about it.
Yeah, man. All right, it's time to get into some listener mail. Teddy, you ready for Ask Teddy?
Yeah, we're ready, man.
Letters. Oh, we get letters. We get your letters every day. Mailman, mailman, mail today. Reach right in and pull one out. Those letters, I love those letters. Let's find out what you got to say.
Oh boy!
Mailman, mail today.
All right, here we go. Question number one, Teddy. Nigel in Beaumont, Texas writes, Dear Teddy and Mac, do you plan on watching the Netflix documentary on Vince McMahon, and what are you hoping is included in the show? That's a good question, Teddy.
Well, I'm looking forward, like I said, to watching it, and I don't have any special thing that I want to be included. I just want to see the documentary.
And for me, I just want to see the real truth. If you're presenting this as a documentary, give me who he really is. Show me who he really is. Because to be quite honest, he's interesting as hell.
He'll do that. Don't worry. Vince will certainly show you who he really is. He has no problem.
No. All right, here we go. Alice in South Dakota asks, what was the most violent match you ever were a part of?
Golly, it was probably back in the day. I think I was refereeing then, and it was the Midnight Express with rock and roll, I believe, and they had the scaffold set up there, and I think Jim Cornette, some kind of way he fell off that scaffold, and that was pretty scary. And also, I remember, God rest his soul, Road Warrior Hawk, he was already injured, or he had something was wrong with him or something, and they had to give him a lot of morphine because he still wanted to work. So they, shot him up with morphine or Turadol or something so he could still go out and work. But the horrifying thing was to see Cornette fall off that scaffold, man. That was
Yeah, he broke his both ankles or his knees. I can't remember what it was, but yeah, he came straight down and it didn't do him any favors whatsoever. And he was terrified of heights too already.
Oh yeah.
So that's somebody else I'd love to get on the show one day. Let's see who else we got here, Teddy. We got Tim in Ohio who wants to know. Oh man, this is a good question. If Butch Reed was not available to be a part of Doom with Ron Simmons, who would have been a good partner?
Dan Spivey.
Wow, yeah, true. Because later on we did get the was it that before the Towers or after the Towers?
That was before the Towers.
Before the Towers, yeah. You're right. Yeah, I just when I think back to Doom, I can't imagine anybody else, only because I saw Doom back then. I can't imagine anybody else being in that position other than Butch Reed. It's just those two worked so damn well together, and they complemented one another because you believed what you saw, and you should have.
Right. But Dan Spivey was a great worker, and I really feel, and I had the opportunity to ride with Dan, and I mostly more with him than I would Sid. So I'm telling you, Dan would certainly have been the guy to put there.
Any stories about you and Dan up and down the road?
No.
The last I heard of Dan had a restaurant out somewhere down in Florida. There was a breakfast place. I don't know if I know was there or not.
It's a good one. I think one night we stopped at the restaurant, we eat, and back then, I'm taking everything A to Z.
Yeah.
So I'm driving, so I done took a bunch of Valiums, before I got ready to drive. So I'm getting ready to. So once we leave the restaurant, me and him, we get in the car. And God rest, took care of us, man. I guess the Valium, ain't no guessing. The Valiums had knocked me out, put me to sleep, and I was headed under an 18-wheeler. And I guess some kind of way, Spivey had went to sleep. So I guess some kind of way something happened, and he woke up. And he woke up just in time to tap me and wake me up and stop me from going under this 18-wheeler. But I went to sleep behind the wheel, passed out on Valiums, and like I said, God took care of us. Something woke Danny up, and Danny woke me up, and just as he woke me up, I put the brakes on just in time.
I bet he was hollering at you at some point.
Well, we were hollering at each other.
Yeah, I was about to say, Spivey could have a bit of a temper. I always heard he could be.
Well, he was a great guy, great attitude, but he wasn't the guy you wanted to fool around with.
Yeah, that's what I've always heard. Yep. All right, Teddy, before we get out of here, this is one of the things you love to do. Name association. This is from Diane in South Carolina. And I got a list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 names here. Just the first thing that comes to mind or any stories you want to share, feel free. First one is Hornswoggle.
Oh, Hornswoggle. I remember one time we was doing this thing for St. Patrick's Day, and they went out and got the beer and stuff, so we could use to do the pre-tape in. Well, when we got ready to do the pre-tape, we come to find out that Hornswoggle and Crystal Marshall drank up all the beer. So now they're drunk. Okay. So now we got no beer. Then there's another story. Hornswoggle, he was so drunk one time backstage, Taker took him and put him on a luggage cart or something he put him on and rode him up to his room on a luggage cart or something like that. I remember something, but he was just that drunk backstage.
All right, here's another name, Jim Ross.
Rather not even talk about him.
All right, let's see. Bob Holly is the next name.
Bob Holly, great guy, man. Had the opportunity to work with him, and he was another tough guy, and he let me do a lot of things with him when I was doing the White Boy Challenge.
Yep.
And he would. They wanted me to hit him one time, and he told me, he said, "Yeah, Ted," he said, "you come right over, man, and you slap the hell out of me." And for Bob Holly to let you do that to him, that's pretty good. And so, if people can remember, and as soon as I slapped him, I run right over to the announcers and I'm screaming, "I just slapped a cracker. I just slapped me a cracker," and so, but.
Oh man!
But I think a lot about Bob Holly. You know what I mean? He was such a great guy too.
And we were talking about tough guys a little while ago about Spivey, and now you talk about Bob Holly, and that's somebody else who's got a reputation of being a tough guy and a hot head at times. So
Yeah.
all right, the next name on the list is Matt Hardy.
Had a great opportunity to work with him for many, many years. Me and him, we always got along. He's always had a great attitude. In fact, I seen him this year. We did a couple of signings together at WrestleCon and WrestleCade. So Matt, him and his brother Jeff both, they've always been good friends of mine.
All right, the next we got two more here. The next one is referee Nick Patrick.
Nick Patrick is the guy that I started with. I think when I first started refereeing, I didn't know, about the business part. So I got a resume. So I take this resume down here and I give it to Nick Patrick. And he took it then, but he told me, after I got hired, and he finally told me, he said, "Man, they threw that resume right in the trash." He said, "This ain't how you get this job." And then I understood exactly what he meant. So. But Nick Patrick, I rode with him for so many, many years, man, and he was always on point. I never forget, we was in L.A., I think somewhere in L.A., and I was driving. So this white guy, he cuts me off, and then he shoots me a bird. Oh, God, I got so hot. Now I'm hot, I'm cussing, and I'm calling him everything. And Nick Patrick is in the car with me, and I look over at Nick. Nick is looking at me, and I look over at Nick. I said, "Sorry, Nick." And I just kept right on cussing him, and then calling him all kind of crackers. And so Nick was just dying laughing. So Nick Patrick has always been a good friend of mine, man. God bless Nick. And he's doing a lot of good stuff in Atlanta. He's running shows in Atlanta at Jay's Barbecue. I think that's what it is. He's doing his show, Deep South Wrestling. So Nick is doing good, and congratulations to him.
Yeah, Nick, his entire organization, the people working for him in that group are working really hard, and you can tell it's because Nick Patrick's got a hand in things. It's just a little bit different than most other places I've been. So Teddy and I had a chance to go see one of his shows in the last year here. All right, so the last one we got on here, Teddy, before we get out of here, Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Good friends with Steve. He was another guy that came up to me and pulled me off and told me, that Vince, liked me and not to mess things up, man, and do the right thing. It was him and Gerald Briscoe. But Steve, he was always good. He always gave me advice. In fact, he gave me a name. I don't know what that meant, but he started calling me Blackbird. And so every time I see him, I called him the same Blackbird, and he'd laugh, but that was our name.
One day when I see him, I'm going to have to ask him, "Hey, look, what was the deal with Blackbird when you talked to Teddy?" See if he'll tell me the story, because there's got to be something behind that. So
he'll tell you, he'll die laughing about it, man. Because I started laughing when he started doing it, and every time we see each other, we Blackbird, and we keep and we never told anybody either. What was behind it.
All right, that's all we got for this week. By the way, we do have somebody coming up soon. I can't tell you exactly when, but we do have a guest coming up, but verified already, and that is Victoria, former WWE superstar and a recent signee into the Legends contract deal, which I think is called now the Nostalgia deal. That they've changed the name from what I understand, but she'll be able to tell us that because she actually sent me a message about that. I can't remember what it's all about, but you'll find out when we find out, when she's a guest here on Road Trip After Hours. I'm Mac Davis, the host, and that is my co-host, Mr. Teddy Long. We'll see you next week.
Holla, players.